Google is a company that everyone knows. We use their services daily and it is embedded into our lives. I don't think I know of a person that doesn't know of Google. If they don't know Google, they are probably living under a rock. With that said, Google is the fourth largest company in the world with a market cap of $1.37 trillion. That is trillion with a T. If that doesn't get your attention, nothing will. Today I am going to analyze Google's Q2 2022 results and help you guys decide whether this is a good company to invest in or not. Just to make a few things clear, I personally love Google. I love the company. I love what they are doing. And this is going to be an unbiased review of their latest results. With that said, this video is going to be a bit tricky, but I'm going to try my best to make it as easy as possible for you guys to understand. Although this might seem difficult at first, I'm going to share a lot of insight about the company, and this will ultimately help you decide whether it's a good investment or not. So let's jump to my screen and I'll share with you guys what we are looking at. So I have Google's second quarter 2022 results in front of me, and we're going to have a look at all three of their statements. So I'm not sure if you are aware, but Google had a stock split on 15 July. It was a 20-for-1 stock split, which in simple terms basically means that they made the price of Google cheaper and it's easier for normal people to buy the stock. Previously, the shares were trading for $2,200, which costs a lot for one single share. The stock split just makes it easier to buy complete shares. So what we have in front of us is the financial highlights. We can see that Google's revenue is still increasing. The change in revenue year over year has increased 13%. This means that Google's revenue is still growing with double digits. Although it's not 62% like the previous year, I feel that it is still quite strong results. We can also see that the change in constant currency revenues year over year. So this means that Google's revenue would have grown by 16% if it wasn't for the foreign exchange headwinds. This just means that Google collects revenue from different countries and the strong dollar made other currencies less valuable. So if it wasn't for the headwinds with the foreign exchange, their revenue would have grown with 16%. We can see that the operating income of Google is $19 billion and the operating margin is 28%. Next, I want to show you guys the revenue that Google collects, and unfortunately, it doesn't show the percentage of the increases. What I want to highlight here is that almost all the segments of Google's revenue has been growing. We can see that Google Search, which is the biggest revenue collector for Google, has been growing from 35 billion to 40 billion, which is a big amount of growth. YouTube ads has been growing, although this is only around 5%. Google Network has been growing, and ultimately Google advertisement as well. Google's total services has been increasing, but what I want to highlight here is Google Cloud. Google Cloud revenue has been growing with 35%, and this is phenomenal growth. I feel that Google Cloud will be a big factor in the growth of Google's future, and this is definitely something to monitor in the next quarter results. So we're going to skip the balance sheet for now, and I want to show you guys the statement of income. And what I wanted to show you here is that the total cost and expenses of Google has been increasing. This is something that happens in difficult times, and this is something that we'll have to monitor in the newest quarter. Although their total cost and expenses is increasing, they are still making a lot of income from operations. When your total cost and expenses increase, this simply means that your income from operation is going to be less. Your total cost and expenses deducted from your revenue is what your income from operations is. Although the total cost and expenses has been increasing, the total income from operations has also been increasing. So year over year, we can still see a significant increase. Another thing that I wanted to mention here is that Google shares outstanding is also decreasing. This is great because this increases the stockholder equity and the returns on capital for shareholders. We can see that Google has been decreasing their shares outstanding with around 2.36% year over year. This is definitely something that is good to see on a statement. Next, I want to show you guys the cash flow statement. And the cash flow statement is probably my favorite because this is ultimately where we can see what is happening with the company and what they are doing with their cash. Cash is ultimately king, especially for big businesses like this. The net cash provided by operating activities has decreased this quarter, and I wanted to find out what was the main reason for that. I found that there was deferred income taxes of $2.1 billion. This is taxes that was deferred to this quarter, and thus it is deducted from the cash position. Although the cash position in the latest quarter is down, year over year it is still up quite significantly. Google has also been increasing their purchases of property and equipment, also known as capital expenditure or CapEx. This means that Google is actually investing in their business, and this will ultimately help the company to grow even faster. So this is definitely expected with a big company like Google. And if we work out the latest quarter, we can see that Google had free cash flow of $12.5 billion. Free cash flow is simply when you deduct capital expenditure from net cash provided by operating activities. Again, we can see that the operating cash flow is down this quarter, but at least it is up year over year. A very important thing that I want to see on a company's cash flow statement is repurchases of stock. This is insane because Google has been repurchasing stock in the billions year over year. This is ultimately great because this also increases the stockholder equity and increases the return on capital for stockholders. With that said, I feel that Google had quite a good quarter. Unfortunately, there was a lot of economic challenges, especially with the foreign exchange headwinds, but still Google came out on top. This is proof that Google can get through difficult economic times, even when the United States is technically in a recession. The results speak for themselves, and I feel that Google is a company that will last forever. Before we jump to the balance sheet, I wanted to show you guys why I like Google and why I am dollar cost averaging every time I see a good opportunity. When we jump to a platform like Stock Unlock and we have a look at the price to operating cash flow, we can see that, let's just go back around a decade. Here we can see that Google's price to operating cash flow is 14.4%, and the last time it was trading this low was in 2020 when COVID happened. Google is technically undervalued at the moment. We can see that Google really trades at this low price to operating cash flow. We can see it was in 2015 and in 2020. I feel that this is a good opportunity to dollar cost average into the stock, especially after last night. The stock fell around 6%, and this just gives us a good entry point at around $105. I want to show you guys the balance sheet of Google, and I feel that Google is a very, very strong company. Financially, they are not going anywhere because they have a massive amount of assets. And what I want to show you guys is how I define a company as being solid. So first we can see they have a total assets of $355 billion, which is a lot. And the thing I want to focus on is, although their current assets has been decreasing at $172 billion, that is quite a lot of current assets. The reason why I think the current assets is decreasing is because of the latest share buybacks. Although the total current assets is decreasing, I feel that this is the result of the share buybacks. And we can see that the total liabilities is also decreasing. So although the assets is decreasing, they are actually increasing the stockholders' equity. The total cash and cash equivalents and marketable securities is also down, but this means that Google has a total cash position of $124 billion. Although this is down because of the share buybacks, what I want to show you is that Google has a total liabilities of $100 billion. Google can basically use their total cash position to pay off all of their liabilities. Although this is not a smart move and they will never do something like this, it just means that if something goes wrong, Google has the cash to pay off all of their total liabilities and have $25 billion in change. Besides that, Google is generating around $20 billion with operations. So this is just a company that is a cash flow machine. Just to sum everything up very quickly, I feel that although it is a challenging time for a lot of technology companies, Google is still showing strong results. Growth in revenue of 13%, which is still double digits, is great. Their cloud business is growing with 35%, and this is definitely something to look out for in the future. They have a solid balance sheet, so we don't have to worry about Google going out of business anytime soon. They are buying back shares, which increases stockholders' equity. Although their total costs and expenses is increasing, their income from operations is also increasing. They are decreasing their shares outstanding, and ultimately the net cash position of Google year over year is still growing. So Google sits with a hell lot of free cash flow after every year, and they already have a very big cash position. Google is a company that I love, and I feel that they will be around for years to come. So I personally try to buy shares from Google as soon as I feel they hit a certain price target. Yesterday, Google broke support at $105, which means the probability for Google to go down a bit more is definitely there. I use a platform like IQ Options to do a bit of technical analysis, and just to show you guys the latest chart of Google, this is a 4-hour chart. We had support at around 106 and the bottom of the support was around 105. Google broke through that support, which means they went down quite a bit. When the market opens today, it will be an exciting one, so definitely check out what is happening with the stock price. With that said, guys, this is by no means forcing you or telling you to buy Google. This is simply me trying to educate you on how to look at the latest results. Let me know if this is something that is interesting to you. If you want me to analyze results from a different company like this, feel free to drop it down in the comments and I'll focus to make a video similar to this one.